Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here at the Cannes Film Festival. It's time to review the festival's opening night film, Annette. This is the latest film from Leos Carax starring Adam Driver and Marion Cotillard, as well as Simon Helberg. And ever since I heard that Leos Carax, the director of Holy Motors, was doing a musical, I mean, who wouldn't be excited? That sounds absolutely bonkers. The story and screenplay were done by the Sparks brothers, who you might be familiar with if you've seen Edgar Wright's recent documentary. They wrote all the songs, they composed the whole thing, and their unique, sort of zany style here is a perfect match for Leos Carax's filmmaking, somehow. Maybe it's just the level of bonkers that both the music and the filmmaking are, and their level of commitment to that. And Annette completely delivers on being absolutely fucking nuts. But it's also a movie that's really difficult to kind of wrap your head around. It's a whole lot to take in on one viewing. The thing is 140 minutes long. It's tough to tell where you are in the film's ever-evolving plot. And even if you are understanding what is going on with the plot, you might find yourself asking, why is this movie existing? What is it trying to communicate to me? And why is it so goddamn weird? And I wouldn't necessarily want a movie that's going to give me easy answers to all those things, but it is a really challenging movie, and it's obviously going to be very divisive for audiences. For a lot of the movie, I didn't really even know what to make of it, but this much I can say for sure. The movie is unlike any musical, or any movie for that matter, that I've ever seen. And Adam Driver is absolutely amazing in this. Marion Cotillard and Simon Helberg are also very good, but it really is Adam Driver's show here. What makes Adam Driver's performance work is that he's able to match the insanity and the bonkers vision of Leos Carax and Sparks here. Like the filmmakers, he's constantly making these bold, strange choices, but he's doing them with such intensity that you kind of have to buy into them. And that type of commitment, I think, is what makes the movie work for me ultimately. Even though I think I might need another viewing to wrap my head around the entire thing and say definitively what works about it and what doesn't work about it, I can't help but to admire and be in awe of it. And I don't think that Leos Carax even really cares if you're getting the movie or if you're on its wavelength. I think he wants to make you kind of drop your jaw and raise your eyebrow at it. It's difficult to put a finger on what exactly is weird about the movie. I think everybody singing doesn't even feel that weird just because it's part of this entire strange odyssey. You're not really going to get many songs here that you could throw onto a musical movies playlist. A lot of times the movie is sort of drifting in and out of like how much of a musical it is. Sometimes the characters are doing this combination of like speaking and singing where it's not quite one or the other, and sometimes there are pretty distinct songs. Most of the highlights in the film were these musical moments. And the Sparks brothers bring in their elements of rock opera, so just the sound of the music itself is different than other musicals. And it's not necessarily that the movie doesn't make sense, like the plot is sort of easy to follow. It's about a celebrity couple, a stand-up comedian played by Adam Driver and an opera singer played by Marion Cotillard, who are in a relationship together, and they have a child who is a puppet. And not in the way where the people in the movie acknowledge that the child is a puppet. It's kind of hilarious and unbelievable, but the movie does ask you to take it seriously on some level, even though it really does challenge how seriously you're willing to take it as an audience member. I'll give you an example of how this film feels like it's in just a different category than reality. There are scenes where Adam Driver is doing stand-up and you might think, well, that sounds pretty straightforward, but it's not even just that they're kind of singing throughout this whole thing. It's like nobody does a show like this, and audiences don't react this way to these kinds of things. And the cinematography is always throwing in like weird flashes of green and other colors. It's a really beautiful looking movie, and the production design is occasionally like kind of abstract. The only way to know what to expect even a little bit going into this is to just be familiar with anything that Leos Carax has done. But even then, he's doing something very different. It's just that level of commitment to the absurd and like throwing off the audience that is similar to his other work as far as I've seen. I've only really seen Holy Motors. But I think where the film might falter is that being 140 minutes and being a little more plot heavy than something like Holy Motors, the film does want you to be invested in its plot and in its characters. And sometimes it's a little bit hard to do just because of the absurd nature of it all. Like, it's hard to take it very seriously to a point where you're emotionally invested in these characters' journeys. And for a movie that ends up kind of landing as a character study, I'm not sure that I felt as invested in Adam Driver's character as I would have liked to be. The movie ends up taking sort of the angle that Adam Driver is like this toxic, despicable person. A route that began around a third through the movie, and I was like, oh, is this what the movie's about? Like, is this where we're going? But the end is very definitively like, okay, like that's what that was. That was like a character study about like this toxic guy who was struggling to love or something. And I really liked the end. It did make some things click for me about what the movie was going for all along. And so I do think that if I watched it again, knowing the angle that it was trying to give me, I think I might be able to appreciate some things that left me scratching my head a little bit. And at the same time, I'm not sure that even on repeat viewings, I'd be able to overcome that a lot of the middle is just tough to stay invested in. In fact, it's such a weird movie, and it's so bonkers that I became a little more jaded than I wanted to be to the movie's own absurdity. There are scenes in this movie that are so like visually amazing and just so odd in terms of like the performances and the direction that if you showed me a clip of them, I'd be like, holy shit, Annette is gonna be fucking nuts. And it is. But in the context of the movie, I don't know if I was as taken with all of these impressive elements because, like I said, I felt a little jaded to the whole thing after so long. And if it wasn't obvious, there's no route for this movie to get any awards love. It's just not made for the Academy. Plain and simple, it would be like the weirdest thing they've ever nominated if they did. Even Adam Driver, as great as he is, like, I'm just not seeing any of this staying in the conversation. Maybe like the original song and then we start. Some people are going to be really, really into this movie, and there's probably going to be some people who come out saying like it's a masterpiece, and there are going to be some people who definitely hate it. I think a lot of people are going to be in the middle where they really admire the bold, crazy vision. A lot of the scenes are just undeniably highlights, and it's a fun movie to watch. But I think audiences are going to vary in how invested they are as they go deeper and deeper into this plot. A lot of this is impressive and bold and wacky. But why is it happening? What exactly is it communicating? And is it the best way to communicate a story like that? Maybe this movie will be looked upon pretty fondly in a few years, maybe not. I cannot say. I had no idea what other people and critics were going to think about this movie coming out of it, even as I had just watched it. I'm not really sure I want to rate the movie. It's maybe somewhere around like a 7 or an 8 for me. Can't really tell. I really do think that I would need another viewing to be able to say for sure if these things work or if they don't. I think this is definitely worth a shot, and it comes out in August, I think, in the US. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. How loud can you sing?